Howdy, Embers. Welcome back to the corner. My name is Heron.
And I'm Gigas.
And scripted podcasts have returned.
Somewhat.
Sure. We're not back to like having subtopics and all that fun stuff, but we're going to be talking about, let's see, 3 separate topics. We've got games, anime, and upcoming events with the channel in 2024.
It's like we've done this before many times.
Whoa.
No, we'll eventually do other topics whenever they arrive, but this is the things that we are most knowledgeable on. So here you go.
It's 2 random guys that you have never met before, that you've only listened to on the internet,
voicing our opinions about games, anime, and other things.
Wow, it's almost like every podcast ever.
What makes us different? You've never heard of us before. That's what makes us different.
Exactly. Yeah. We're original, we promise. All right, let's see here. A couple of different anime we haven't touched on. We touched on it very, very briefly in our most recent episode of anime. Was Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer was I was very, very hesitant to start it. Once upon a time, I actually had to sneak away to go to church from my dad because I had just tested or negative for COVID, and it was like the first time I could go back to church after being gone for like 2 weeks. So I was really, really excited, and I was just like, okay, I'm the only one up. I want something to watch before I go to church. Oh, here we go. Let's give this a shot. And the rest is history.
I don't remember what got me into Demon Slayer. I think it was just more so like, oh, I heard this anime was like really cool. I'm gonna check it out, and then I started just binge watching the entire series.
Yeah, no, I was the same way. I think I finished season 1 in maybe 2 weeks.
That's quite a while. Whenever I binge watch series, I get an entire series done in like a day or 2.
I've definitely gotten a lot better about binging. That's actually kind of not a good thing. But I've definitely gotten a lot better about like the quantity of media I can absorb in one sitting. Like, for example, Dragon Ball Z. But back then I wasn't necessarily like super gun-ho about binging stuff. Like I was binging a lot of live action stuff at that point in my life, but I wasn't really binging anime. Anime was kind of that thing that I got to relax with, so to speak. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It was like what I put on the screen when it was just me using the entertainment system. Because once upon a time my sister was never into anime. She despised it. Actually.
I was kind of like that as well. It wasn't like I despised it, but it was like, what's the point? But that was a very young and naive me, and then my other friend got me into anime, and then
so on and so forth.
I watch more anime now than anything else. So
yeah, I mean, I watch a lot of movies. I just watched this movie called Sisu last night, which is
yeah, I've seen the trailers of it.
It's the thing about it is it's a very, very gruesome, gory movie, but it's so gruesome and gory, it's comical. Mm-hmm. That's the only way I could describe that movie.
Yeah. My most recent movie, and this is still on topic, I just started watching at least most of the new Jujutsu Kaisen movie.
Yes! Finally!
And then my family came in, and I'm like, okay, well, now I gotta stop it and listen to what they have to say.
Fine. Now, I lucked out because of my living situation right now with my dad. Me and him are on opposite schedules because of our work. So for like 6 to 8 hours a day, I have the entire apartment to myself, and I could just watch anime. It's great. Mm-hmm.
So back to Demon Slayer.
Yes.
What made you choose Demon Slayer to talk about today?
Like I said, we barely touched on it last time. We talked about sub versus dub and how we watched it. You watched it largely in dub, and I watched it largely in sub. But I guess let's break this apart a little bit. How do you feel about training like montages in like movies, TV shows, anime, like, do you like them? Do you like?
I think it depends on the anime that you're watching. Certain animes it works really well, and some it's kind of like, it's not really needed. If they set it up right, a training montage is actually really good.
Like they did in episode 2 of Demon Slayer.
Yes, or My Hero does really good with their training arcs and stuff like that. Like the whole training area just out in the forest.
Yeah,
that whole area.
I mean, with that we got like introductions to a bunch of new villains. That was like the first real attack from the League of Villains too.
Naruto has a couple good ones in there that are needed because like he learns new abilities and stuff like that, which is really cool, and he shows it off really well. And then others I feel like are actually needed, like SAO for instance. I would have really preferred them to slow down season 1 and show more of the training side and like the grinding side, to show how Kirito got to where he was.
I would have been perfectly content with SAO season 1 if they had the first half of the season literally just be a training arc for Kirito.
Well, because the manga does a really good job with that, and is a reason why an upcoming anime that I'm really looking forward to, because I've continuously read the manga and still keep up with it, is Solo Leveling.
I bought you physical manga for that.
Yes, and I had read over twice the story online, so I'm like way ahead of those books. But yeah, the reason why I really like Solo Leveling is because it's very similar to SAO in a way, and they do really well about the grinding and the struggles of leveling up and stuff like that, that you really wish it's even considered the SAO, like what SAO needed to be.
I think one of the better training montages that happened, not necessarily arc or anything like that, was the pilot of Rising of the Shield Hero.
Yeah, that did really well.
Because it set the tone for everything Naofumi was as a character.
Yeah, but it more so went after like a couple episodes of just training montage because of Raphtalia, him getting Raphtalia and then training with her and then getting better.
Philo and then...
Yeah, so it's kind of like a training montage, but also like enveloped within the main story, so it's not as relevant, but it's still there.
Exactly. And it's but I'm more so talking about like the initial, like him grinding on the orange balloons and grinding off of the orange balloons, and then learning how to nurture plants to make better medicine, learning like his herbing abilities and his potion making abilities for like herbs and medicine, and becoming like things like that as well. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about really, really cool looking animation, because anime is cool. So,
what is your favorite fight from Demon Slayer?
That's a good one. I think I would have to say my favorite fight. Oh man, I have to think about that one, because Tanjiro so far has faced a couple of different villains. We had the initial I forget what his name, the drum villain, where we got to meet Zenitsu and Inosuke. Then take that a step further, we had the entire Spider family. Then we had the Entertainment District arc, which was technically 2 demons in 1. But before that, we had him teaming up with Rengoku before that, before the Akaza fight, we had the final member of the lower 6 demons. Sorry, I'm forgetting all of the terminology because it's been so long since I've watched Demon Slayer. But that's really tricky. I think the coolest concept that I've seen so far would have to be the fight Tanjiro had partnering with Inosuke during Mugen Train. Because I mean, over and over and over again, Tanjiro was getting cast into his sleep. Often,
lower 1.
Yeah, offering himself, like offing himself, so that way he could wake up from the dream just to go continuously fighting over and over and over again. It was like one of the coolest, like just animation shots I seen in anime at that point,
Yeah.
because that was the point where that was one of the points where Demon Slayer was getting a lot more of its 3D animation from, while coupling it with like very Japanese inspired art, like via animation, just because of how the sword skills are and the sword techniques and everything are drawn in that anime. So I think animation wise, the coolest one to watch was probably that fight. But the coolest, just hands down, overall fight, I would have to say Rengoku versus Akaza.
Yeah. That's actually the same one that is my favorite. The reason why I didn't want to say it is because I didn't want to like inhibit or like alter your whatever yours was. But yes, mine is the same one just because of the amount of emotion it gives you throughout the entire fight. Because you're rooting for one person, that and the artwork and everything is so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched it, Rengoku dies, and I remember watching this with you in theaters and stuff, and like it just changed the whole vibe of the theater, and even like walking out of it, like you just felt like this like bittersweet feeling in your body.
I felt a lot like Tanjiro during that, because I was just like, no, you coward, stay.
Yeah, that's like the fight that I haven't really seen from any other fight in the series. It like drawing out that much emotion.
It truly encompassed what they were facing, in a sense. Just being so powerful that they could take out a Hashira, and even when one is literally sacrificing himself, they run away into the darkness like cowards.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like there's still other like really great fights and parts in Demon Slayer, like the ending of Swordsmith Village. Like that was another part that like really like made you feel emotional and stuff like that.
Oh, especially the very end of that episode.
Yeah.
That's too big of a thing to like actually talk in express detail about, because it changes the entire direction of the story.
Yeah. But in terms of fights, it would be the Akaza and Rengoku fight just being the best one in my opinion. But I don't know. Everyone's free to have their own opinions, but I feel like I truly do feel like a majority of people would actually agree to that as well.
Who would you say your favorite character in Demon Slayer is?
Definitely Inosuke.
Inosuke.
Definitely Inosuke.
Inosuke, honestly, like at first he was my favorite just because Bryce Papenbrook was voicing him, and then I saw it like hit the interpretation of him, and I was just like, oh, okay, we're just we're just insane.
I feel like he's just super relatable in a sense. Like if you were in his shoes, you would totally act like Inosuke.
Well, what?
You wouldn't, you don't
unpack that more, because
if you were in the world of Demon Slayer and you had these superhuman abilities, I would probably be like Inosuke.
I would pay money to see you act like Inosuke with how your personality is.
I totally would.
I think I doubt I would be like I don't know. It's tricky. I feel like I would end up being a lot more like Rengoku in the world of Demon Slayer, just because I don't know. I think I would do a lot more like studying in like the whole like honor and like just like history that goes into that goes into total concentration breathing and stuff like that. Plus, I mean, fire.
Yeah.
So I mean I think that works pretty well with my personality.
Yeah, it does. My brain just turned off. I actually had a follow up to that, and then I just couldn't remember.
I got it perfect. Okay, out of the core elements of total concentration breathing, what do you think would be your breathing style?
My breathing style.
Like I'm talking like lightning breathing, water breathing, fire breathing, flame breathing. Um, would you be like Tanjiro in the Hinokami Kagura? Would you have like fog breathing, mist breathing, wind breathing? Like what would you have?
Um, I forget which one does it, but there's one that's specializes in like poisons and stuff. I feel like I would most associate that with myself, just because like in any like game that I played in terms of like that has like elements and things like that for fighting, I've always tended to go towards like acid or poison type stuff.
I've always been more like, I've always preferred like the contrast, almost like the Todoroki style of doing things, fire and ice. You know what I mean? So I think since there is no like canonical ice breathing to my knowledge, fire is the closest thing I could come to that, which I know is totally opposite in that retrospect, but I think that's what it would be. I would be flame breathing or Hinokami Kagura. I honestly think more so flame breathing, just because I doubt I would be lucky enough to have like something like Tanjiro has.
Yeah.
Also, Tanjiro just like, he almost made me angry at the end of the Swordsmith Village arc, because he just randomly pulled out like 15 abilities that he just had that he hadn't been using for the entire season. And I was just like, why? Why is this happening just now? You know, he was on the verge of death like 15 times. Why didn't he do like it just didn't make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, one of the biggest events that happened there was him being able to use Zenitsu's Thunderclap and Flash.
Yeah.
When did he learn that? I know it goes into
I
detail
think he was
about
just
it.
like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to attempt it, and it worked.
No, because he learned how to do it.
I honestly think he just watched Zenitsu do it so many times. He was like, you know what? I'm going to go into the same stance as him and then try it.
I'm going to trust you on that because you've watched it more recently than I have, but
That's entirely my guess on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
that's what I want to believe.
the thing too is it's not the first time Shonen has done something like that. The first time they did it was in the original Dragon Ball anime when Roshi used the Kamehameha wave. Literally 5 seconds later, for the first time seeing it in all of his life, Goku mastered it. Literally 5 seconds, and it took Roshi decades to learn how to do. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did just do that.
It's really just comes down to main character.
I want to see like
knowledge here.
Like obviously like MC armor is a thing, but like, well, at least not in the case of Jujutsu Kaisen. Because I mean, the entire story for that is, and this is in the pilot, so it's not even a spoiler. It's the whole thing is, I believe that they're going to end. I haven't read any of the manga, so no spoilers, please. But my I guess what's the word? Speculation for how they're going to end Jujutsu Kaisen is it's going to be exactly as it started. It's going to be Gojo versus Sukuna.
Yeah.
And the whole premise, because the whole premise of it was Yuji ate Sukuna's finger, and now he has to eat all of them so that way they can eradicate Sukuna's existence.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of it. So Yuji like full on dying at the hands of Gojo killing Sukuna, that's how it has to end. And if it ends any other way, it won't make sense.
All right. So I think we pretty much covered everything of Demon Slayer in a sense that I can think of.
Ooh, who's your favorite Hashira?
My favorite Hashira. Probably fudge, what's her name?
Mitsuri?
The one with the whip?
Yeah, Mitsuri.
Yeah, Mitsuri. She just, I like her bubbly like whole personality.
Uh-huh.
And then she just gets like super fierce whenever she has to fight.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Also, she just has a very interesting concept for a sword.
Yeah.
Like the whole ribbon blade thing.
Yeah.
Like that's just like what? how does it work? That's what I want to know. It reminded me of
there actually is like a blade like that that was made. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like it kind of looks more like a X-Acto knife.
Mm-hmm.
That can detach and reattach.
Yeah, it was The first time I remember seeing a weapon like that was in Bleach, actually. I forget what the character's name. It's in season 2 at some point, but it's Ichigo's first like full on fight against another Soul Reaper. So it's very, very interesting that we don't see weapons like that very often, but they're always done so well. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, having like something like a ribbon blade, being able to move a weapon so fast that can literally span in any direction based on how you move it. That's really cool in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you can attack. Because technically speaking, if you move fast enough with a weapon like that, you could attack in multiple directions at the same time. So that's just a cool concept to me. All right, I think that's probably gonna do it for Demon Slayer. Moving on. What else were we gonna talk about? My Hero.
Yeah, My Hero. That was something that we talked about in our most recent Wonder episode, but we never actually went further than that. We were like, hey, this is something that we haven't talked about yet, and then never talked about it in that episode.
I think the exact same thing that I think the exact thing that happened was, who's your favorite character, or who's your favorite hero in My Hero Academia? And then I said Bakugo, and then you said like,
I said Ida.
Yeah, you said Ida, and then
we did like had to focus on something.
Yeah, and then I made the point where it's just like, there's an anime we never unpacked, so here you go. Bakugo's my favorite character for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so My Hero is very interesting in a lot of ways. I feel like the most crying in an anime ever, and animes do a lot of crying in different animes, but especially Midoriya.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say his style of crying is necessarily the same that's in every other anime, because every time he cries, it's almost 100% comical.
Nah. I mean, even the anime itself was just like, dude, stop crying.
This is true. It was like, why? Why is this thing?
He did get a lot better with that in like the most recent seasons. But yeah, that was a lot of the first couple seasons.
Yeah, especially season 1. I was just like, okay, dude, seriously, you're about to become the most powerful hero in like the entire world, and you're seriously telling me that your origin story is crying every 2 seconds. Really?
Yep. But yeah, so My Hero is very interesting in its terms of concept. Definitely do not look into the community. I don't, and I know that everyone who goes into the community ends up hating the anime.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with like the Sonic fandom. It's just like, I love this thing, but I don't associate it with the community because it's toxic.
Yeah, that's very much My Hero. So please do not go into the community. Just enjoy the anime for what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I would say the first couple seasons, it's kind of slow, just because the main character's like learning his ability and stuff like that. But once it hits season 3 and he starts actually like mastering his ability, that's when it gets really good.
It's almost like, because I mean, there are different training arcs in like bigger anime and stuff like that, but then they usually go into like a bigger fight arc. And granted, that's kind of how My Hero progresses, but the thing is, there aren't really filler arcs or episodes that also don't have training in them.
Well, another thing that I really love about this anime is it sets itself up from the beginning. Like, everything builds up to the most recent season. Like, you can even rewatch the season and you can see the pieces connecting together just to build what it is now. And that's what I really like. It's not just like, hey, I'm going to throw this in just because it needs to be there.
It's the first time in a very long... I like the style of it because it reminds me of reading a comic book.
Well, that's what anime is supposed to be.
Well,
at least the good ones, because they're based off of anime or manga.
But I mean more so like, my comic. I'm not talking like comic panels. I'm talking like textbook, stereotypical comic, like superhero comic book, where you you meet your main character, you figure out their personality, they get their powers, and then at the end of the first issue, we see brooding darkness. You know what I mean? Like every time I watch My Hero, I get that exact same feeling.
Especially in the latest season.
Exactly. It's just like there's something always progressing in the ways of the villains, but our hero is consistently understanding more and more of his abilities.
Yeah. Another really great thing about this anime is they focus a lot on the villain side as well. Like, I wouldn't say like main characters, but like they really put them as like a big role. And I want to say even like somewhat divides up the entire like fandom of this anime, like either rooting for the good guys or the bad guys.
Exactly. And it's very much that the entire way through. I mean, even for a while even for a while, for one season in particular, the fandom was kind of split between who the main character was, Deku and Bakugo, for a little bit there, because like they were focusing so much on the progression of both of these characters at the exact same time that for a while Midoriya didn't feel like the protagonist.
Yeah, and then like half a season, I think in the fourth season, it was all just villains, and they even switched it to My Villain Academia.
Yeah, there was a little arc there that was largely based on that was largely based on a lot of the origin for Shigaraki and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then also it was a lot of suspense and build up because all the villains kind of like get souped up for the next season.
Exactly, and then
the next season is a war.
Exactly, and it's like point blank stereotypical, like two different teams split up to take out two of the strongholds, or the two strongholds where the League of Villains is taking place, and then it just erupts and explodes all over the place.
Yeah.
So much to the point where we have so many character deaths.
Yeah. So how do you think it's going to end? Because what I think how the anime is going to end, because I guarantee it's probably either next season or the season after is going to be the end. I think it's going to be Midoriya ending up like saving Shigaraki in a sense, because like in the most recent season, it shows Shigaraki as a little kid.
Exactly, and because that season unpacks again the origin story,
Yeah,
of
and
it.
you really see Shigaraki just end up being completely controlled over All For One.
Exactly, and I mean that's been the constant struggle from since All For One became known as the main villain of the series.
Yeah.
Because even with we've gotten to a point where Shigaraki is now All For One.
Yeah. So, but it's gonna be interesting because it's like you definitely see Midoriya gonna be ending up saving Shigaraki, but I don't see Shigaraki ending up being a good guy after, because
No.
he was a bad guy even before. Well, I mean, All For One was a huge influence, like a father, but he was kind of like just misunderstood his entire life because of his quirk.
Exactly, and I mean that was the whole thing was he wanted to be a hero, and everybody looked at him like he was already the worst villain in existence.
Yeah. So that really brings up a lot of questions because of how powerful Shigaraki is now.
And
it's like he could save Shigaraki, but at the same time, everyone's going to hate him because he's one of the most powerful villains ever.
Well, I mean, even like that kind of stipulation is, I honestly think what largely influenced Deku to become a vigilante.
Yeah. Well, just the entire world in a sense, because like Shigaraki is the entire reason why the world is now in ruin.
Exactly, and and he's also the reason why heroes are now not welcome anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, there were a lot of things that played into Midoriya becoming a vigilante, and ultimately it's revealed why he did it in front of everyone, and obviously he gets forgiven for it. But we're getting to a point where the contrast is being so evenly distributed between Shigaraki and Midoriya that it's building up so much to the point where we're gonna get the most, like, one of the most climactic fights in probably anime history.
Yeah. So that still leads me back to my question. How do you think this anime is going to end?
It's tricky because a lot of these stories end the exact same way. It ends up being trying, not necessarily saving the villain, but not killing them.
Yeah. But in the way that it's going right now, it's how do you know what is right and what is wrong? Because you definitely see both sides having a very valid reason for what they're doing.
Exactly. So it ultimately becomes a struggle, and I think what might end up happening is because it's tricky because in the only other anime I've seen this done is an anime called Gurren Lagann, where they have so many time skips throughout the series that the final battle ends up being everything it's supposed to be. So I honestly don't think and again, haven't read the manga, so this is purely speculation. I think one of the biggest things that could happen is a time skip where we get a lot of the younger where we get like the fluid progression of the younger cast of characters in going to like UA and things like that, and then eventually I don't know, it's tricky.
Well, I mean, that totally could happen because the last season, they're pretty much completely caught up with the manga. There is no new manga as that I know of right now because they're still making it.
Exactly. So, and anime is its own thing. They could go a very different direction than the source material,
Yeah.
like they did with Tokyo Ghoul.
But yeah, so it's just a really interesting one because like when My Hero first came out, it was just like, oh, this looks like a really interesting concept of an anime, but it was like, it's just gonna be like one of those other animes. And then the more that the seasons have come out, the more
Developed everything became.
well, and it became a lot more popular as well. Until like now, where it's like one of the most popular animes of our time.
I mean, we've gotten 3 massive movies for the entire thing. Out of the 3 of those, which one's your favorite?
I gotta remember the new one because I only remember there being 2.
No, because there's 3. So we had the initial one, which was Two Heroes. We had the one with 9, which was I forget, Heroes Rising, and then the third one, World Heroes Mission.
That's right, the World Heroes Mission. That was a really interesting one. I think my favorite one was which one was the one where they were on an island for summer vacation?
It was Heroes Rising.
That
Heroes
one's
Rising
my favorite.
was so good. And I realized that one of my favorite TikToks that I saw about that movie was, what's one moment in media history where something so insane was happening that it was cool? The final fight between Bakugo, Midoriya, and 9.
Yeah, because Midoriya gives Bakugo like shared power over.
No, he
One For
straight
All.
up gives him all for one for all, and because of that, because it takes time to dissipate from the original user, they essentially had 2 people who had one for all fighting a coagulation of different like extraordinary quirks. So like the fact that it was just so cool to watch.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate in a way that like the movies aren't canon to the actual series.
But it's also a good thing because if we gave Midoriya the ability, because the thing is, at the end of the movie, they retconned the fact that even happened.
Yeah.
So it makes almost every anime like movie that's come out for My Hero has ended up. Sorry, 1 second.
Well, I don't really know what you finished. You kind of just Stop talking in the middle of a
Sorry, had to
sentence.
had to respond to a text. um,
You keep talking to me about putting away my phone. Now I'm telling you to get off your phone during a podcast.
well, you still have your phone active and out, good sir.
I'm not using it.
Yeah, but it's there and it distracts me too.
I'm not using it. You were using it.
Yeah, you've also done that multiple
Anyway,
times.
back
Blah, 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 blah. Every movie for My Hero, the reason why they're not canonical is just because almost everyone at the end of them just retcon everything that happened. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes them null and void, and it just makes them a cool side story.
Yeah.
But also, just like in the world of My Hero, being able to just freely give one for all. Granted, that's like a part of it, but being able to hold on to it because of the will of the quirk, that's dumb. I'm sorry. That was a cop-out. And the end for that movie was so... It was what it needed to be, but it annoyed me so much.
Yeah.
Just because, like, it literally was a cop-out, and you could tell it was a cop-out, because how do you unwrite something like that?
Yeah.
You can't. You get a side story where Bakugo becomes the new world's strongest hero, which I'm all for, but...
Yeah. So that's another really great anime right now. What else would you consider to be like a really impactful anime for you, at least?
Angel Beats.
Don't get me started.
Angel Beats was the hardest thing I've ever watched in my entire life.
I beg to differ with that one.
Because the whole reason why I watched that one was because, and the reason I say that is because, and when I say hardest to watch, I mean, like, I couldn't bring myself to watch it because I cared too much about the characters.
Yeah. It's definitely an emotional anime, and really well written as well. Like, just the entire concept of that anime. But
the end is so good.
yeah. But that's not, I wouldn't say the saddest anime that I've watched.
I wouldn't say that. I didn't say it was the saddest anime. I said it was the hardest to watch because of how much I cared for the characters.
Yeah.
Which are two different things. If I'm talking about just like point blank the saddest anime I've ever watched, Violet Evergarden.
I still need to watch that one, but I was more so thinking about Your Lie in April.
Your Lie in April speaks to me as a musician.
Yeah, well, that's the entire reason why it is so impactful, because I mean, me myself, like, I am a musician. I played piano, so I kind of relate a lot to the main character, just having like that player's block in a sense, and having this person come into your life and kind of like revigorate yourself and push yourself past all those mental blocks and your past, in a sense.
Exactly. And I mean, Your Lie in April takes it to the nth degree. Like, I forget what his name is, main character. The whole reason why he couldn't play piano anymore was because he mentally blocked himself so much because of the trauma that he had from learning it, that he couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
He physically could not register the sound of him playing the piano because of how traumatic his childhood was.
Mm-hmm. And then you get this other person who is like this really amazing violinist that just comes in and tries to bring him into music again, and it's portrayed as this like very like free flowing, very bright, energetic character, but in reality is like has a deathly illness.
Exactly. And I mean, the because the whole way I forget what is I can't just
It's been a while since we watched it.
this is gonna bother me, just give me a second.
But yeah, it's just kind of a interesting thing, because it's like in a way, the worse condition she is, the more
Kosei and Riza.
Yeah, the more Kosei learns himself.
Sorry, I read that wrong.
I don't remember because it's been a couple years, but the main character, like the more that time goes on, the more that he's able to like bring himself back to play, um, that once was for his mother and to play for himself in a way.
Oh, Kaori and Kosei. So it was
He
Kosei. Okay.
Yeah, he ends up playing for her
Mm-hmm.
at the end, and because of that, um, becomes himself again.
Exactly. He finds a different way to enjoy music, and like as a musician, it it's interesting because there are two ways music is taught to most people. You have the methodic perfection style, where the whole reason you're playing is to pay homage to the composer, which is what Kosei initially was. And then you have Kaori, who just comes in and is the free flowing spirit and shows Kosei that music doesn't have to be perfect. It can just be whatever you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's a free flowing way to express yourself. It's art. That's what it is. And music, I would say, was the first way of true expression in just history in general, because it allowed a different, because what is the quote? It's where words fail, music I forget what it is. It's like where words fail, music takes over, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know the quote. But I do apologize for butchering that. That's just that's what I just remember that being a thing, and it's largely like what it is. That's why I want to learn so many different instruments, because it's the exact same way like writing is, because you have to, excuse me, you have to find that perfect word that encapsulates everything you want it to be. You have to find that perfect sound that blends with what you've created so far. You have to find the perfect stroke. You have to find the perfect paint color. You have to find the perfect. It doesn't matter what the expression is. It just allows you to fully express yourself. And Your Lie in April does such a fantastic job of portraying that. You know?
Yeah, and I mean that's pretty much exactly why it's like it's still one of my favorite animes, just because of how well it's made, and it is one of the saddest animes I've watched, but it's a not a movie, a show that's needs to be watched and needs to be told because of how it's portrayed and the meaning behind the characters and the way that the story takes, because it's like the worst thing in your life could happen, but you still have to find a way to keep pushing on and make your own way in the world.
You have to find you at the end of the day, you have to find what gives you joy,
Mm-hmm.
because if it's different for everyone, and every person, it has a reason why they're here, and for a lot of people, it's having these ideologies that can only be expressed through art, whatever their whatever their outlet might be.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I love art so much. Not like drawing and stuff like that, because I'm not very good.
I
But
can't draw.
more so like the music side of things, like
Mm-hmm.
because music is an art. It's such an amazing way to express yourself in a way, and it's such a huge impact on the way you feel, because music really does can alter your emotions. Like if you hear certain songs, it can make you sad, it can make you happy, it can bring out really deep feelings in yourself in a way.
Exactly, and I just found the actual quote. It's Hans Christian Andersen, "Where words fail, music speaks."
Yeah, and that's why I'm so adamant about playing music and wanting to make my own music, because it's the best way that you can truly express yourself and how you feel and what you want to portray to the people that are listening to it.
Exactly, and music is such a incredible art form that boils down to carefully orchestrated sounds to give the exact emotion you want paired with each of your lyrics. And it's the same thing where like with classical music, there's a very I guess what's the way there's a very like point blank stated emotion that has an ebb and flow to it, even if it's just instrumental, which is why you can tell the tone of a song so easily, even when the lyrics don't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll eventually talk more about music in a later podcast. It's not the right time, but something that me and Heron really want to delve deeper. We've attempted this in the past, but where we stand right now, it's not the best to be talking about. But we definitely want to be talking more about this certain subject, and more so what we want to even do with music, because it's a huge thing of our lives. We even wanted to go to school and learn as much as we can.
I was originally going to college and I was talking a little bit about this in my Mario 64 series. The reason why I went to college in the first place was I was trying to double major in music performance and music education, so that way I could use both of those skill sets in making music.
We'll eventually make music for the channel, but that's gonna be later down the line when we have some better equipment and stuff like that.
Yep.
Onto another thing, in terms of the new year in gaming, because this is we're heading to the end of the year.
We're getting very close. We 21 days until Christmas.
Yeah, we're finishing up a lot of our gaming series.
Today alone, at the time of recording this, I just recorded the finale for Mario 64.
And also probably the end of our Played Up series. So there's a lot of things that are ending on our channel, and we kind of wanted to kind of give a little insight of what we're going to be putting onto the next year.
As this is no surprise to anyone at this point, hopefully. But my next Let's Play that I will be tackling is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD.
Yep, that's going to be, we talked about this a little bit, but we're going to be kind of alternating series on Zelda's, like playing the Zelda games in order, switching between me and Heron.
With minor differences, because the reason why we wanted to split it up in a way that made sense, and I wanted to give you a couple of bigger titles, so that way you could experience some of the better Zelda games. But at the same time, I also wanted to give you a couple of ones that you were familiar with, because Zelda's been a huge part of my life, and just in the last couple of years, you've been diving in very, very deep into it.
I've always been a Zelda fan, but it's the point of like me playing a bunch of the different games. I just never had access to those games.
Exactly. Whereas with me, I did have access to those because I had all of the Nintendo consoles growing up. You know what I mean? So I had so to break this down again, I will be taking on Skyward Sword because in timeline order, it is the first chronological Zelda game.
Yeah, and this will be going on probably for the next year, maybe 2 years down the line, just playing through all the Zelda games.
Yeah, and I mean,
as many as we can, because there are a few that we won't be able to play, like Four Swords.
Yeah, so
just because we don't have the setup for that or the extra people.
That's thousands of dollars of equipment that are not only expensive but hard to find. Yeah. So there's those inhibitors. So Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures are unfortunately games that we will not be tackling. I've explained this a little bit, but I'm going to go into a little bit deeper detail about that. We are not going to be tackling A Link Between Worlds, and we are not going to be tackling Triforce Heroes. We're not going to be tackling them as series for the time being as we take on the Zelda series, because in a lot of aspects, A Link Between Worlds is a rehash of A Link to the Past, just with updated graphics and a little bit of a different story with a new ability. So it's because of that, we're not going to be tackling that game, and we're not going to be tackling its sequel, Triforce Heroes. Because we run into a similar problem with not having all of the hardware necessary for that game, and also the fact that wireless communications are down for the 3DS now. So until we get a port for that for the Switch, or we find a way to play those games, we have no way of recording them.
Mm-hmm.
So those 4 games we will not be tackling in the Zelda series. However, there are 2 spin-off games that we will be playing because it actually ties the timeline together. Those being Hyrule Warriors and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity.
Mm-hmm. You got to find the original Hyrule Warriors. I own Age of Calamity.
Well, I mean, they did release a Hyrule Warriors Deluxe Edition, so on the Switch, so I can easily do that.
All right.
But as far as like ping-ponging the series back and forth goes, let me pull up my lovely, lovely list of the timeline order for The Legend of Zelda.
Well, so you're going to be the one that's starting this whole series, and then I will be the one ending it.
Exactly, which is kind of interesting, because the first game in chronological order is Skyward Sword, which, following this, is the Minish Cap. Unfortunately, the direct sequel to the Minish Cap is Four Swords, and since I don't have a way of playing that myself, and I never want to try to attempt something like that, skipping Four Swords, which would have been my game, we go back to Gigas, and he will be tackling on Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go in left to right timeline order, because this is where the timeline splits. In the Heroes Defeated timeline, the first game that we will be taking on is A Link to the Past. I will be taking on that game. It was my first Zelda game. It only makes sense that I play that one. Following that, we will be having Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. Gigas will be taking on Ages, where I take on Seasons. And then we will be coming together for the finale of those series, because in order to finish the story of both of those games, you have to link your profiles.
Yeah.
So we will both be doing side series of those on our own time, so that way we each have 100% files on both of them. So when we go into finishing the game 100%, we both know what we're getting into.
Yeah.
As far as whose file, it will probably just be the one that has the most money.
Yeah, probably.
Even though it doesn't have, that's probably what we'll use as just as our deciding factor, because even though it doesn't have anything to do with the end of those games, it's a very clear set difference between the two profiles that otherwise we wouldn't be able to figure out how to differentiate whose file we'd be playing on.
Yeah.
Regardless, though, we will be taking it on, and we'll figure out a way to co-op the boss, so that way we both get to play.
Yeah, we'll try to figure out like maybe a split screen or something like that. That way both of us are playing, or we'll figure something out to where both of us are recording, streaming, playing the final boss at the same time, so that way it feels like it's coming together.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we want to do for those series, and those games are so great that they deserve something like this. Arguably some of the best 2D Zelda games out there, in my personal opinion. And I know you haven't played the games yet, but I know you're going to end up having the same reaction. Mm-hmm. Following that, though, in timeline order, will be Link's Awakening. It did get an HD release in via the Switch, and Gigas will be taking on this one. This is a very, very different kind of Zelda game, but it's very, very interesting, and because of the puzzle mechanics, I think you're going to do very, very well at it. Which leads me to taking on the original Legend of Zelda.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's one I'm going to be able to knock out very fast, but the sequel to it, you're going to have a very fun time with.
I've heard a lot of things about Legend of Zelda 2.
Mm-hmm. Just Zelda 2. There isn't even a Legend of. It is just Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
Yep.
You can see the naming contrast very much ended up being the Legend of Zelda series at that point, because no other games in the series have a title like that. Mm-hmm. So...
yeah, I have played a little bit of the very first Zelda,
mm-hmm.
Just because I own a Nintendo Entertainment System,
mm-hmm.
and I have Zelda on it. Mm-hmm. So I played a little bit of it, but never completed it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was at a time and age where
you can't save.
A, you can't save, and B, well, I mean, there are ways of saving in that. They're just hard to find, because this was a game that was released in the age where Game Sharks and Nintendo Power were things you needed to 100% games. So, but now we have the internet. So now that's not a problem. Following that, we have the hero is successful, ergo the child era. I will be taking on the direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. And I hopefully will, at that point, have enough equipment to record the 3D version of it on the 3DS, just because it's better, it's more high-quality graphics, and it's a little bit more fluid of a game to play. If not, I'll be playing on the Virtual Console on the N64 for the Switch. Following that, though, I'm still hesitant about giving this series to you, but I will hold back. Twilight Princess is yours.
Hooray! Well, I mean, you're gonna get Wind Waker.
This is true. So we're splitting up the bigger titles like Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, all in fairness capacity. I get Skyward Sword, it's only fair. And I also get Majora's Mask, I also get Wind Waker. I get more of the bigger titles, so it only makes sense that you would get
Twilight
Princess. Huh.
Which I am very excited about, because
it's going to be
it is my favorite game of the franchise, even though I haven't completed it. It's the very first Zelda game that I've ever played, and which is why it is my favorite, because I love the style of the art, I love the story of it. It's my favorite Zelda game.
And there are other aspects that you haven't even discovered yet, which I'm so excited for. Like, seriously, you are going to love the combat of that game. But the end of the child era of the timeline split is Four Swords Adventures. Again, we run into the exact same issue. We don't have the hardware to record something like that, and it would be a very, very hard thing to do with people who haven't played or are not knowledgeable of the series. So until we get more people on Embers Corner and we have the ability to create a setup for these games, we will not be tackling them. Moving forward, we have the third leg of the timeline, and I will be taking on the Wind Waker. Arguably the easiest Zelda game, so I will be playing in hero mode.
That'll be interesting. I just got Wind Waker, so I need to play through it as soon as I can find an adapter for my Wii U.
Yep, and then this gets into the kind of the black sheep Zelda games, the DS games, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. You will be taking on Phantom Hourglass, and I will be taking on Spirit Tracks.
I definitely think Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks have some of the coolest songs.
They do, and they have some of the arguably some bad mechanics, some of the worst mechanics in the entire Zelda series, but also some of the best.
Yeah.
So they're very much give and take games, which is why we want to do series on them. Now, that's the end of the timeline in the Hyrule Historia. So where do we go from there, Gigas?
Well, there's only one way to go. Very far into the future.
Exactly. So much so that we have to pull back and dip into 3 separate timelines, aka the 3 converging timelines coming together in Hyrule Warriors, which I will be taking on.
Yep, and then we go straight into, I believe, Age of Calamity after that.
Yep, which then means that I will be taking on Breath of the Wild, and you finishing out the Zelda series with Tears of the Kingdom.
Yep, that's going to be really fun, because I'm yet to 100% the game. I don't know if I will be doing that when I record because of how long it will take, but I definitely will be doing as much side story as I can while playing it.
Yep, I think I'm going to commit to it now, because not a whole lot of 100% series of these bigger games are on YouTube. I'm going to commit to it now. I will be 100%ing Breath of the Wild.
That means I will probably have to 100% Tears of the Kingdom. Yay me, because that's 3 times the amount of playtime than Breath of the Wild.
Well, on the bright side, it's enough content for you to absorb until the new Zelda game comes out, which means I get to take it on.
That is true. Like a decade in the future.
Well, or it may honestly just be a couple years down the line. Because granted, it took about the same time for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom to develop, but there's a very, very strong possibility that the next thing that Nintendo puts out will be their next gen console. So, and I have a feeling, and I've already gone into speculation about this, that the launch title is going to be the next 3D Mario game.
Yeah, that'd be really great. Either Mario or Zelda, because those are the Nintendo's two biggest franchises, with
Exactly.
Mario being the mascot.
And
But I would even arguably say like Zelda's probably like the second.
absolutely. I mean,
Yes, there's Pikachu as well, like Pokemon.
well,
Is
Pokemon.
huge.
I feel like Pokemon is its own thing entirely, even though it is Nintendo. But Nintendo obviously is the father company of that. But Game Freak are the developers of Pokemon, so it's Nintendo was more so a grandfather company for Pokemon just in general. So I don't. Granted, it is a Nintendo game, and I do like put it in to the hot pot that is the Nintendo as a company, but I don't associate it in things like as far as things are like Metroid, Kirby, Star Fox, Pikmin, Zelda, and Mario.
Yeah.
I think I said Pikmin twice. It's fine.
But yeah, so that's our big thing that's gonna be coming up in 2024. Along with my solo series that I'm planning on recording in January, which is going to be Rust. I don't know how long the series will take. It really just depends on how much free time I have, because it's a game that I would really like to continue on and do as much as I can, but it's a very intensive game in terms of time to record and edit and everything like that. So it's I might get maybe 1 or 2 episodes out depending on how much time I have, but that's going to be my solo series. We plan to maybe have some extra smaller, like maybe one-off games that we choose to play. And we also have another co-op game that we intend on playing that is going to be replacing PlateUp. It's going to be a very interesting game. I'm not going to say what it is
All
yet.
I'm going to say is it's in a similar style for gameplay.
Yes.
But I would argue that it's more similar to Overcooked.
Yeah.
Which
is another game we might actually play on the channel soon.
Exactly, and because that's an easy progression game that we can easily do, and it stays in the theme of cooking games that we seem to be playing for some reason.
I'm all for it.
Hey, food is food. I'll take it. But all that to say, one final big announcement that might, fingers crossed, will be happening halfway through the year is me getting my setup. And the first thing that we will be trying to do with my setup is recording our verses of Breath of the Wild.
Yes, that is our goal. There's a lot of other games that I really want to play that Heron will have a setup. It'll really just depend on what is popular, because there's games that I want to be playing right now, but is probably not going to really be relevant, but probably will still make an appearance at some point.
Exactly, and it's there's a reason why we have the one-off game playlist on there. So if things don't take off, we still can put it on the channel via our one-offs.
Yeah, Lethal Company is one that I really want to play. I am definitely getting Heron into a modded Stardew Valley playthrough.
Modded Minecraft eventually.
Yes, modded Minecraft. I actually will be like teaching you how to play modded Minecraft, because I play a lot of modded Minecraft in my own time. The reason why I haven't been uploading it to the channel is because it's a lot.
The processing capabilities of it.
Well, it's just a lot to play. It's a lot of grinding, a lot of hours that go into modded Minecraft. But yeah, so eventually we will have stuff like that. I would love to, because there's some really great mod packs out that I would like to show you. And then so I would like to get you into a Calamity Terraria series as well. That would be a lot of fun.
All sandbox similarly like themed things we will be doing as co-op series eventually as well. So we will be doing a Nintendo co-op thing of some kind, be it versus an actual co-op game or a Nuzlocke. That's a thing that we need to do eventually.
Yes, we will be doing Nuzlocks.
Which I'm so excited for because we've only attempted to do them before, and now you don't have the excuse to stop.
Yeah, Nuzlocks, Wonderlocks, all that stuff.
Or just straight up Pokemon Versus.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that we'll have some of those in there too. So just a sprinkle of each seasoning of different types of content for you. We've got big plans for this channel. And yeah, I think that's the perfect way to end off our podcast for today.
If you guys really enjoy this, please do hit a like, comment of what you would like us to talk about next. We're always looking for ideas to talk about on this channel.
Open suggestions, anything within reason. Within reason.
We have a Discord coming up soon. We have a YouTube channel if you're watching this from Twitch, obviously. We upload or try to upload 5 times a week, pretty much consistently at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And,
with minor hiccups. We've only had 2 minor hiccups.
Our podcast coming out every Saturday. Maybe switching to every other Saturday, depending on how things are, but we're going to try to keep it every Saturday.
The struggle with making a podcast is eventually, unless you get people that want to hear certain topics, you run out of ideas. So that's why 90% of like the end cards for our podcast end up being updates on where we're going with the channel because we physically don't know what to talk about.
Well, and it's also good to just keep everyone updated of where we're at and what they can look forward to as well.
That's true, but I mean, they don't need to be 15 minutes of updates for the channel.
That is true.
All right, so without further ado, we will go ahead and sign off. Thank you guys for listening, and have a great day. Deuces.
Bye.